Gakunyita ugeni muri wa Kameme TV na gakugeithia na ngeithi nyingi cihandite wega thaa mugwanja na ndagika imwe ari ithaa ria gukumenyithia uria bururi woikaire gukinyiria ithaa riu. Umuthi ni tariki 30 mweri uyu wa Julai werekeire kuinikirira ani ndoka ngumenyithie ciĩgiĩ bururi na haria turi. Ririkana kuri na icera ria president wa Uganda guku bururi-ini uria ukirikitie gukiamukirwo thingira-ini wa iregi ni President William Ruto. Nituguthie mwena ucio ihinda ritari kuraya, no mbere yo reke nyambe ngumenyithie maria nguhariirie nie njitagwo Mwaura wa Ndung'u na twina wa mwi wa wahome thiini wa metha ya utauri. Tukiambiriria riu ni mugaru na watho aruti a wira thirikari kuyukia kandarathi o ciothe na kuhura biacara na honge cia thirikari ari ta njira ya kũhũrana na ungumania. Undu uyu ugiuka thutha wa mutongoria wa bururi William Ruto gwikira kirore watho ucio. Akiaria hindi igongona riu thingira-ini wa iregi, President augite riu kamiti ya kũhũrana na ungumania EACC ni ikiritwo hinya wa kũhũrana na wici wa mbeca cia muingi, na oro hindi yo President ni akiria kirore watho wa kugitira akuru aria magumirwo ni moritu makiria na mawathe matiganite.
Bars public officers from entering into contracts for supply of goods and services, as well as contracts of disposal of assets with entities where they work or where they have influence.
This is a very momentous occasion for Kenya, that after the passage of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Law several years ago, today we are stepping up the fight against corruption by passing the Conflict of Interest Law that now gives power to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption to take charge of matters, wealth declaration for all public officers, now not just in the executive, but also in the legislature and in the judiciary, to also make it illegal for officers serving in positions, whether they are in the judiciary, the legislature, or in the executive, to abuse the authority they have in their offices and to undermine the rule of law and abuse the resources that the people of Kenya have put together, and make sure that every resource, every coin, every cent, every shilling that is paid as taxes by the people of Kenya or in any other manner is used only for the intended purpose, and that no such resources find their way into private pockets or private enterprises. And that is why this is a very consequential moment in Kenya, that we are stepping up the use of public resources in the right manner and making it that much more difficult for people to take advantage of the offices they occupy.
Tukitigana na icio, ruhonge rwa kũhũrana na ndawa cia kũrebia na kada nĩ rũrugũrĩtie mũtaratara na mawatho marĩa matanyĩte kũhũthĩra mwaka ũyũ nĩguo kũmateithĩrĩria harĩ kũhukia ũhũthĩri na wendia wa ndawa cia kũrebia gũkũ bũrũri-inĩ. Na kada nĩ ĩrũgamĩtie ũgathĩrĩria na ũmemerekia wa imenyithia cia njohi mathaa-inĩ marĩa ceceni cia TV ikoragwo ikĩrorerwo nĩ andũ aingĩ, o hamwe na gwĩkĩra imenyithia iragathĩrĩria njohi mĩtambo-inĩ ya ũkinyanĩria. Minista wa ũgitĩri wa thĩinĩ Kipchumba Murkomen hamwe na ũguo nĩ eranĩire atĩ ministry yake nĩ kũnyitanĩra nao mbara-inĩ ya kũhũrana na ndawa cia kũrebia.
The second is a banning of alcohol ads in the TV. We want our children to learn ABC and not SDU, which is substance use disorder. Banning these ads during prime time. We also want them to mandate them to put warning ads at pictorials on these alcoholic drinks as we do in tobacco. We also want to ban online sales because this transcends age. These things are being sold to the young ones.
The ministry will continue to support efforts to ensure that individuals struggling with addiction are not only rehabilitated, but are integrated back to society as productive citizens. Our correctional facilities will play a role in rehabilitation programs for those within the justice system. and to support his rehabilitation program and also the fight against this menace, I think we need, I will be engaging the Asset Recovery Agency to see how best we can also make it more punitive fast.
Tuthi kaunti ya Murang'a kuria cieko cia woici wa mahiũ kaunti-inĩ ĩno ithiĩte na mbere na kwĩhĩrĩra gĩko kĩa ica ikuhĩ harĩ woici wa ng'ombe ũrĩa ũratabanirio ũtukũ wa hwaĩ na ũratiga mũrĩmi agĩtara hathara itũũra-inĩ rĩa Thamara Kajama gĩcigo-inĩ ũmbunge kĩa Mathioya. Kũringana na aikari a itũũra rĩrĩ moigĩte marekwĩra woici wa mahiũ ũcũngĩrĩirio nĩ wongerereku wa agũri a mahiũ arĩa makoretwo makĩgũra ng'ombe mathaa-inĩ ma ũtukũ, makiuga mwonjoria wothe ũrĩgũraga ng'ombe no mũhaka agakorwo na marũa ma thũgũrĩ ya mahiũ ta ũrĩa mwandĩki witũ Wambui wa Mwangi araithĩrania.
Gĩkũyũ augire mũrĩmi ndaunagwo guoko. Ĩndĩ ũyũ nĩguo ũndũ ũrĩa ũtũngĩtio arĩmi a mahiũ kaunti-inĩ ya Murang'a. Ica ikuhĩ arĩ mũrĩmi ũmwe kuma itũũra rĩa Thamara Kajama ũrĩa ũtigĩtwo agĩtara hathara thutha wa ng'ombe yake ya ngirĩndi kũnyua kagera. Ng'ombe ĩno ya mũigana wa ciringi 200,000 ĩiyĩtwo mũciĩ kwa Alice Ngonyo nĩ ekinaĩ aya na magatiga magera ngero ya gwĩteithia rĩingĩrĩro-inĩ rĩa kiugũ kĩa ng'ombe ĩno, aikari makĩrwo makĩnia atĩ ũrĩa ũgũikio ngono akũinĩra ihũgo ta mũkori kĩronda.
Njũkĩrire ndakora ng'ombe rĩnjie mwanake wakwa akumaga thaa 10 cia ũtukũ akora waya yake ĩndũ ya nguo rĩu oka akĩnjĩta. Ndoka tuona ng'ombe nĩ njie twaikũrũkania na bara twathiĩ twakora ĩkuĩrwo harĩa kĩanda. Yakuĩrwo harĩa kĩanda ona harĩ gakobia tũrutire ho tuona gakobia hau rĩu twagĩcoka twetana andũ a itũũra magĩũka.
Gĩko gĩkĩ gĩa gwĩteithia rĩingĩrĩro-inĩ rĩa kiugũ gĩgĩtomithio na njĩra nene kuona ĩno tiyo ng'ombe ya mbere kũiywo gũkũ, amu mita nini kuma kwa Ngonyo nĩ kũnyitwo ng'ombe ya mũthuri ũgwĩtwo Mwangi.
Nĩ tũrona andũ acio mũndũ marĩ itũũra rĩrĩ ikinya rĩrĩa tũrauga rĩu thaa ici ũguo na tũgĩtana tondũ rĩu tuona tũtigũkira nĩ gĩtũmi kĩmwe nĩ tũkwĩrangĩrĩra na tũkwĩrangĩrĩra na njĩra nyingĩ tondũ andũ arĩa tũgũikia ngono kumania na hau ti ũhoro wa gwĩkua atĩ kũrĩ borithi kũrĩa ngaki twĩna ona ithuĩ tũthondeke vigilante itwa gũtũrangĩrĩra indo citũ tondũ tingĩtuĩka tũthĩnio nĩ thirikari na igũrũ na ithuĩ twambĩrĩrie gwĩthĩrania na gũkũ thĩ.
Mũingĩ ũgĩkwĩra broka cia ng'ombe iria maugĩte nĩcio iratabania ũmaramari ũyũ.
Andũ aya mararongoreria ng'ombe cia iria ikinyĩtie rita 10, 20, 30, ndegwa iri nduĩre kiugũ, mori iri nduĩre kiugũ iri cierekeire noru hamwe na mbũri iri noru, thenge, mĩgoma, ng'ondu nĩ marathiĩ na mbere gũcikua.
Aikari aya nĩ mathingatĩte honge cia ũgitĩri gũtigĩrĩra arĩa maragũra ng'ombe mena marũa ma thũgũrĩ ya ng'ombe na gũtigĩrĩra gũtirĩ thũgũrĩ kana ũkui wa ng'ombe mathaa-inĩ ma ũtukũ.
Ona hĩndĩ ĩngĩ nĩ njĩrĩga kũrutĩrwo ng'ombe yakwa o haha kiugũ gĩkĩ haha ũũ ĩkĩgera o ĩgĩthiũrũrũka ũguo ĩgĩthiĩ ũguo ĩgĩthiĩ ĩkĩgwa irima, ngwĩciria nĩ kũrema yakĩremire na rĩu itũũra rĩrĩ ritũ tũtirĩ na security ona ĩmwe tondũ twakĩhũra riboti gũtirĩ ũndũ meka.
Tũtirĩ na ũgitĩri wa kũigana kana tũtige kwĩhenia ngoro atĩ twĩ na ũgitĩri wa kũigana tondũ korwo twĩ na ũgitĩri uma ng'ombe ciĩtwo tũtiĩtagwo mĩcemanio gũtirĩ handũ twĩra tũhe tũmenyithagio kaũndũ na kamwe kangĩtũteithia ũrĩa tũngĩgĩa na network kana information cia kũhota kũrangĩra itũũra rĩrĩ ritũ. Ũndũ ũcio ũngĩ meciria-inĩ maitũ
wakĩigua kamũgwa ngunyĩra nĩguo ngururĩrie na ngũthererie tondũ gaka nĩ kanya kohoro kuma metumi ndigi magũrũ. Rĩtwa rĩakwa nĩ Sarah Wambui wa Mwangi.
Nĩ ngatho Wambui wa Mwangi na rĩu tũgarũra ikinya tũgĩthiĩ ngĩra-inĩ wa iregi kũrĩa President wa Uganda Yoweri Museveni hambĩrĩirie icera rĩake gũkũ bũrũri-inĩ kũrĩa amũkĩrirwo nĩ mũtongoria wa bũrũri William Ruto thingira-inĩ wa iregi wa Nairobi. Icera rĩrĩ rĩtimenyekete rĩrongoreirie kĩ ĩndĩ rĩũkĩte rĩrĩ kũroneka ta kũrĩ na ithagathago cia kĩwonjoria harĩ mabũrũri ma gĩtarũ kĩa Afrika ya irathĩro. Tũthiĩ mwena ũcio tũthikĩrĩrie nĩ marĩkũ marahanĩka.
Negotiations between partners and the Republic of Kenya on the extension of the railway from Naivasha to Kisumu and finally to Malaba to join the railway that will now go into Uganda and into the DRC. And that we intend with all programs being in place to begin that program before the end of this year. I have also briefed His Excellency the President of the commencement of the extension of the dualling of the road from Nairobi to Nakuru to Mau Summit and eventually to Malaba, again to ease transport and logistics between our two countries and also into the East African region. The MOU we have just signed provides a robust framework for that engagement to happen. The MOU on standards and quality assurance is to strengthen the collaboration between our two bureaus of standards, again to enhance trade and to eliminate illicit, substandard, and contraband goods finding their way into our markets. The MOU on agriculture and animal husbandry will expand our cooperation in both veterinary and crop health, innovation, and of course to foster food security in our region. The MOU on fisheries and aquaculture will focus on the management and the joint capacity building of the resources that we have in the space in our waters, both in Kenya and Uganda, and to see how we can leverage the opportunities that are in the blue economy, not just to expand our economies, but also to build on our food security requirements. The MOU on the support of sustainable urban development of the Greater Busia Metro project, which will be undertaken between this year and 2028, will seek to facilitate the implementation of joint programs on infrastructure and other development projects in Busia. I'm happy that the governor of Busia County from Kenya is in our midst, and he has come to make sure that we don't forget that this is an important project, because the Metro of Busia is a shared city, both between Kenya and Uganda. We have Busia on the Kenyan side, and we also have Busia on the Ugandan side, and we have communities that speak the same language on both sides. And this will give us the opportunity to do the expanded market, which is an East African initiative to create the transport corridor and infrastructure for the one border post to facilitate easier movement of goods and services into and out of Uganda, to the port of Mombasa and to the East African region on the other side. The MOU on tourism is to promote a joint destination and marketing, cultural exchange, and ecotourism. Emormor will now find it much more easy to find his way into Kenya. As you are aware, Mr. President, we have the Teso King, who some Kenyans owe allegiance to him, so sometimes they find their way to Uganda. Somehow he stays in Uganda. Maybe we'll also find some residence for him in Kenya. But part of it is the whole building, the whole system of cultural tourism between our two regions. And just to confirm to you, Mr. President, I have appointed a special envoy for the Atekar people, which span all the way from the Teso of Uganda and Kenya, the Karamojong, the Turkana, the Pokot, all the way to the people of South Sudan and that region, just to leverage on the culture and tradition and tourism of the communities that live there. Your Excellency, I also appreciate in our consultations that shortly we will be signing the agreement on sharing of resources between the Karamojong and the Turkana communities in northern part of Kenya and Uganda, that will again facilitate greater harmony between the communities living in that area. And on behalf of the people and government of Kenya, and on behalf of the people of Turkana County, to sincerely appreciate your consideration of some of our Kenyans incarcerated in Uganda, that we will shortly be having a conversation on how this can be resolved, both at the government level and at a cultural level. And we look forward to the signing of the agreement on resource sharing that will facilitate these communities to share the resources of water, pasture, and other resources in that region in a manner that is mutually beneficial to the people of our two countries, and that promotes greater harmony between the communities there. And these agreements also signify our joint resolve to turn our cooperation into practical results that will directly uplift the lives of both our peoples. We also acknowledged the ongoing negotiations on other important instruments, as I have said, notably the cross-border resource sharing agreement, which we hope to finalize this year. We reiterated the value of the Joint Ministerial Commission as a crucial vehicle for driving our bilateral agenda forward, following the successful second Joint Ministerial meeting session held in Kampala in May 2024, and our technical teams who have continued working closely to actualize the outcomes that we agreed upon. Your Excellency, I must also commend you and the government of Uganda for facilitating greater understanding of the communities around the Little Rock in Migingo, and the conversation that we have had on how we should bring greater harmony and greater understanding of the communities there, and how we can facilitate the joint sharing of resources. And the MOU that has been signed here on fisheries will also facilitate the use and sharing of the resources in the blue economy in a manner that does not create acrimony, but promotes harmony between the peoples of that region. Kenya is scheduled to host the midterm review of the second joint ministerial conference from the 11th to the 13th of August here in Nairobi this year. At the principal and permanent secretary level, this will be an important platform to evaluate the implementation and progress, and to set new priorities for the next phase of engagement. On trade, we reiterated concerns over persistent non-tariff barriers that hinder the flow of goods and frustrate the objectives of our region and the integration exercise that is underway in the East African Community Framework. We emphasize the need for a principled, practical, and time-bound resolution of these barriers, given their direct impact on livelihoods, especially for farmers and traders. The forthcoming Joint Ministerial Conference midterm review and the Joint Trade Committee meeting in October 2025 will be crucial in ensuring that there are positive outcomes on all these fronts. We also committed ourselves to strengthening regional institutions and furthering the objectives of the East African Community, including progress under the Customs Union, Common Markets, Monetary Union, and ultimately a political federation. I shared my view and that of the people of Kenya, and the shared view between the peoples of our two countries on a fast tracking of the East African Community steps towards a political federation that will bring synergy between the peoples of our two countries and the East African community in general. The East African community continues to demonstrate its potential as a good model of effective regional integration. We emphasize the centrality of unity, economic convergence, and shared prosperity as guiding principles for deeper integration. President Museveni and I also held constructive discussions on regional peace and stability, and we reaffirmed our position that security is essential to sustainable development and commended ongoing regional peace-building initiatives. We further agreed to collaborate closely in conflict resolution efforts, advocating inclusive approaches supported by both regional and international frameworks. In conclusion, I sincerely thank our elder, His Excellency President Museveni, for honoring Kenya with his presence and for his strong and enduring leadership in East Africa. And Kenya remains a dedicated partner and a true friend of the people, government, and Republic of Uganda. I thank you. Let me allow Mzee now to make his remarks. Karibu Mzee.
His Excellency President Ruto and the honorable ministers, you have covered the whole spectrum of what we discussed. But what I want to emphasize are 2 points. Point number one is kuamuka. Inaonekana tumeanza kuamuka toka kwenye usingizi. Because the big problem of Africa is that I used to also be a very active Christian. I didn't know I would fight that. I would have been a bishop. Now, in the Church of Uganda prayer book, what you call the Anglicans, there's a statement very strong in our local languages. Balekanga biba Sunday kukola, ne bakola biba Sunday kukola, n'amazima tugali mu bo. They left undone what they ought to have done, and they did that they ought not have done, and there's no truth in them. I don't know where they got it in the Bible, but it is in the prayer book.
No, it is in the Bible.
In the Bible also. The bishop has told you. Now, this is really the big problem of Africa. And you young people, when I see people doing all sorts of things, arguing and so on, I wait to hear for the content. What are they arguing about? When they are talking about small things. But the big thing is modern economies are built on production of goods and services. The more goods and services you produce, especially industrially and agriculture and so on, the wealthier you are. But when you produce goods and services, the next question is, who buys what you produce? So the issue of the producers and the consumers is at the center of a modern economy. So therefore, when you see people, leaders, whatever they are, just talking about all other things, this one, why are you not talking about the market? Nani atanunua bidhaa zako? If you don't answer that and you say you are a leader, then there are serious issues. So therefore, here I can see that we are waking up to talk.
Na hatiudo tagaja riboti oni kumia mukira na wadado kumohori ni maito mareme kurumirira no higo kuhuteria ni girimiti gatagati ga bururi wa Kenya na Uganda ka sector ine itiganete ari hamwe na waki wareri hire gukithie ginyagia mwena wa Malaba udomo na farafara ya Nairobi Rioni Mau Summit na kirekere mwena ucio wa Malaba ni mamwe mamaria hihi makiri girimiti ni ino gatagati ga Kenya na Uganda na magi maige ni kumamukira mohori ni maitumare mekuru minoda ke kaineno reke ginye hau ne mudogo eto niko ne ukoroge shokeria haha ni udo watafarira ya mwigariko extra tumenyithie maria tuhari thini wa mathako digitago mora wa dongo na tuma na wahome wa mwithini wa metha ya utauri.
TV muthegi wa ruriri thutha wa nduma nene nĩ ũtheri mũnene narĩo riũa rĩa wega rĩgacangarara na kũrehe ũtheri ona mwĩhoko wa muoyo.
Na ripoti ya Ngai ĩrauga atĩ niĩ ndarĩ mũrwaru
tondũ ndĩ haha ndĩmwĩre atĩrĩrĩ I am a living testimony.